right, thank you for staying with us. Let's start that discussion now, and I'll sample some of your views during this broadcast at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. We're talking about CBC. We'll talk about parental involvement. We'll talk about how it has changed different places and also the use of technology as well. All right, keep your views coming. Teresia Njambi is here, CBC parent and entrepreneur, and Faith Ngogoyo, country lead, TISA's Education Kenya. Thank you so much for making time as well. Lawrence Ochieng, CBC facilitator and deputy head teacher, Ongata Academy, is about to come in. As soon as he walks in, we'll drop him into the conversation. But Teresia, let me start with you on this. How has your experience been as a CBC parent?
Good morning. I am Teresia Njambi, an entrepreneur of La Grandeza Events. I'm a mother of 4, two of which are doing CBC right now. One is in grade 6 and the other is in grade 4. So I have a candidate this year. In the next 2 weeks, she's doing her exams. I feel like CBC, for me, is a good curriculum. I've experienced both 844 and CBC, and according to my view, CBC is a good curriculum. It gives a child more avenues to explore their capabilities because it's more competence-based. I feel like it is a really good avenue to bring up our children, that the child can know the kind of life he needs to lead from the skills he attains through implementation of the CBC. So far, CBC is good, but I feel like the implementation was rushed. It was rushed in that the schools were not ready for CBC, and the teachers were not equipped well enough to tackle CBC. So for the last 5 months, it has been a hurry kind of situation. Everybody is here and there trying to grasp the situation. The children have also feel rushed. I can see from my daughter, she's tensed because of the exams, because previously they were doing kind of an open kind of answer exams, and until recently the government changed and gave them sample papers where the children have to do ABC or multiple choice kind of exam. So these children, for the past 2 years, they've been doing open kind of answer, and then out of nowhere they are expected to do a national exam with invigilators there, and they're supposed to answer in multiple choice. This has been a strain to school and to teachers to make sure they have equipped the child early enough to deal with that exam, to be ready for that exam. So there's been assessment day in, day out to see if the children are well equipped.
So it's almost like a crash course for them now.
It is a crash schedule for them. It is. I really pity the grade 6 of this year. At least we know next year people will have come back to the normal calendar. At least it won't be as rushed. They've been closing for a week. And with a crash program like that and a new curriculum, I think grade 6 should be given a leeway. They should be given a leeway, like whatever they do in their national exam, let's say it's the first class, so we can excuse. So
there should be no grading? But
yes, I'm totally against grading and ranking. Because when CBC was introduced, what we understood as parents is they've done away with ranking and competition. So the CBC was to explore more on the capability of the child, on what capacity that child can do, what can that child do, and not what 844 was more knowledge-based and more of results and outcome. But with CBC, we felt that at least they will identify the talent of the child. They identify what is this child good at. So we thought that there'll be no competition, no ranking, no national exams as we are now experiencing. That's what we thought until a few months ago when they brought the sample papers from the national exam, and we saw that it's a multiple kind of choice exam, and so the children have to now start relearn things that they have not done before.
Okay.
So it's kind of a crash program for the children, for the teachers, even for the school. It's a lot of pressure, even towards the parents, because each and every time the child comes, Mom, we have to do this.
Yeah.
And maybe you've come home late in the night and the child tells you, Mom, show me this. You have to show me. We were told to Google. We were told to go to YouTube. As for me, I've restricted internet, so they can't go to YouTube without me or the father around. So we were waiting for you, that it's late in the night. We have to do this. We have to, CBC has a lot of digital literacy. Yeah. So there are some questions that they're told, go and do further revision through this link.
Yeah.
So you as the parent has to participate. That is where the parental engagement comes in. It's very involving. Okay. CBC is very involving with the parent, and I appreciate that. We are more involved, and we appreciate that we are getting to know our children more, and we are helping them grow.
All right. Yes. I'll come back to you again to talk about this issue of parental involvement. But let me bring in Lawrence Ochieng now. He's a CBC facilitator and deputy head teacher on Ngata Academy. Lawrence, thank you for making time for us. What has your experience been like as a CBC facilitator, and what do you recommend going forward? What should change and what should remain the same?
Thank you very much, Trevor. First of all, CBC curriculum is the best curriculum that this country has ever had. Considering the work that Professor Odhiambo Task Force of 2012, the recommendations that they gave about this curriculum is only that maybe there might be some bottlenecks in implementing, but this is the best curriculum. They traveled widely and consulted widely about this curriculum. They consulted with the education giants such as Malaysia, Singapore, Finland to come up with this curriculum. I may not say that it was in a rush, but as an implementer or a facilitator of curriculum, it takes time, yes, for things to work. But I would urge Kenyans, let's be patient with this curriculum. Because at the end, it will bring a big change to this nation of Kenya. There are so many gaps that this curriculum is intended to fill. And since its implementation, that is from 2018 up to now, despite of the bottlenecks, the curriculum is doing well. Yeah.
All right. Faith, what is your assessment?
Yeah, Trevor, I think just like the two have said, this is a really great curriculum. From my perspective and where I sit, we recognize that in education technology, we recognize that there's a significant move from rote-based learning. What do I mean? A system where the children or the learners were expected to cram and then regurgitate whatever they have crammed in exams, So we really appreciate the move from the rote-based learning system to a competency-based system where the skills of students and learners are nurtured, right? And there's also a very significant focus on 21st century skills. I think that is critical, and we have to recognize the power in harnessing and building these skills in the learners. What hasn't worked very quickly, I just want to speak to the strategic implementation pathways that have been taken for the implementation of CBC. We have realized scenarios where teachers or facilitators of learning are ill-equipped to implement fully or to implement to the best capacity. Let's take the example of digital literacy. Right? We had the digital literacy program introduced in 2016. And what happened? We had the laptops, the tablets rolled out to some schools. But you go to these schools and what do you find? They are locked up somewhere. Where are they locked up? So you have a conversation with teachers, with key stakeholders, and what they will tell you is that, number one, they are ill-equipped to implement fully or to implement to the best capacity. Let's take the example of digital literacy program introduced in 2016. And what happened? We had the laptops, the tablets rolled out to some schools. But you go to these schools and what do you find? They are locked up somewhere. Where are they locked up? So you have a conversation with teachers, with key stakeholders, and what they will tell you is that, number one, they are ill-equipped transfer this knowledge to the students on digital literacy, for example. Number two, there's also a very real fear among teachers and facilitators of learning that they could be replaced by technology. And we are going to talk about that later. But so what I'm saying is that I truly see the value in harnessing the power of a competency-based curriculum for this market, not just for Kenya, but for Africa. But I think what needs to be reviewed is how we are equipping the facilitators of learning and the key stakeholders to implement effectively.
Yeah, let's stay on that topic of ill-equipped teachers, facilitators, or even parents as well. There are those who are saying that there's some parents who are extremely widely involved without any support. I mean, some may not even have internet access, but you're expected to Google things, you're expected to download things.
Yeah.
How do you bridge that gap?
Yeah, so I think, Trevor, what we need to recognize is that we have come a mighty long way, and there is hope. Yeah, I want to just start by saying that I know we are coming from a campaign season that we were very heavily invested in, and some promises were made about internet access. And without even dwelling on that alone, during the COVID season, Kenya realized a significant spike in the number of internet users. We are looking at least 40% of the population now having access to internet. Right? That said, we also have to realize that the infrastructural development might not always match the need for certain intervention, right? So when I say that, we recognize that we are a leader. Kenya is a leader in technology and the use of technology for problem solving in the East African market. That is something that we have to recognize. At the same time, we realize that infrastructural development to support this kind of learning might not be matching the speed at which we are releasing the interventions, right? So that is something that we have, that is a gap that we have to bridge. At the same time, we are really leveraging on the power of collaboration among the key stakeholders to ensure that we are realizing a situation that students, even in the most remote parts of the country, can still access a quality education. So we are finding ways through technology, which I must mention, excuse me, which I must mention is probably the most sustainable way to scale quality education. We are using technology to attempt to bridge the gaps in scaling quality education across the country, and not just across the country, but across the continent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me bring back Teresia on this. Teresia, so let's talk about parental involvement and technology. How have you been bridging the gap for your daughter who's in grade 6? Are there situations where you think, okay, maybe I'm not equipped well enough to do this? And when you think about a parent who's somewhere in Turkana, for example, how do they bridge the gap for their own child? Or does this then exacerbate the inequalities around education?
Okay, thank you, Trevor. On technology and the parental involvement, I feel like there's a lot of inequality because you can, as you see in the penetration of internet and technology in the interior parts of the country is really low as compared to here in Nairobi. So I might be very involved in the child and I might be able to use technology because I have access to that. But it's still a challenge because we don't have like, we are told to go to YouTube. I can't allow my child to go to YouTube alone. YouTube has a lot of content. So that's why I've put restrictions on YouTube. Even when you restrict, there's some things that filter through that a child shouldn't see, a child shouldn't listen to. So as much as we embracing technology, technology should be controlled. Like as much as we're doing the YouTube, the digital literacy, we should have avenues that we should have technology that is child-centered, that is child-friendly. When kids come home and tell you, we have to do an assignment on YouTube, I have to like go and feed in the link. They can do it by themselves, but I really don't trust that they will concentrate on the specific assignment. So with technology, it's really a sensitive situation, a very tender ground that we are still learning and we are still trying to grasp as parents. And most parents are not digitally literate, and so that also is a very big challenge in CBC, because digital literacy is one of the competences that they want to impact on our kids. And it has really not penetrated in most schools, and the teachers, as Ngogoyo said earlier, they are ill-equipped even on the avenue of digital literacy. So how do you expect a child to be literate, digitally literate, and the teacher cannot comprehend what he or she is supposed to do? So that's quite a challenge, but we are hoping that as we go, we can say, as Lawrence has mentioned, we're still in the teething stage of the CBC curriculum. As we're going forward, we hope that the government will look for avenues that can simplify implementation of CBC through the technology in an easier way, or stakeholders can come in and help our children to get knowledge through technology in a safe place. With technology, we have to look at the safety of our children, what they see, what they listen to. So as a parent, we should be very involved in our children, in as much as we are busy in our life. Parental involvement is very vital, and we can, the CBC cannot be implemented, and it cannot be successful without the full parental involvement of a parent, like 100%. You have to be there for you to push the child forward. So I think technology is very vital in the implementation of CBC, but the penetration is very poor in the country. We are hoping that moving forward, government is working towards making it more accessible to even the interior parts of the country, and in an affordable way, because it's really expensive. You can imagine you have 2 kids, and all of them you have to take as they're doing the assignment. I can give an example. We were told to, I think he's in grade 4, you are told to bring clay, bring a pot made of clay. And we live in a very urban place, and we were asking ourselves with my husband, where do we get clay? Where do we get clay? So luckily for us, their grandma's place is quite near. So over the weekend, we traveled to our grandma's place.
Just to get clay?
Yes. And we went to the river. The kids really enjoyed the nature walk. For them, it was a nature walk. And you have to take a video. Get that right? We have to take a video and pictures as they are picking the clay, coming to make the pot, and you have to bring the dried clay pot on Monday to school. And you have to take pictures and print the pictures for the portfolio. They have a folder, which they call the portfolio. They have to stick pictures of the work they've been doing. And so I was asking myself, what of the parent who is very far in the interior parts of the country, in Lodwar, in Marsabit? How does the child get to print? I have access to the cyber. I can go to the cyber and print. How does that child print the work and bring it to school? So that's quite a challenge on that. It brings a lot of inequality. I hope as we are moving forward, as the task force is working on how to improve on CBC, they will look at the inequalities that are being brought about by the curriculum, and try to streamline all parameters and see what can be done to make the child who is in Nairobi equal to the child doing exam in Lodwar or in Lokichogio. Where do we bring? They have to strike a balance on how to bring in equality on these children, as they're doing the same exams, but they don't have access to the same facilities. Thank you.
Lawrence, do you agree that the teachers were ill-equipped to roll this curriculum out? Because what Teresia is saying is that as a parent, there's a lot of inequalities, and are the teachers well-equipped to realize that there are certain times that you don't necessarily have to do the physical work? Because there are some people who may not have access to the clay that she's talking about. They had to travel. They had to print it. Is it possible that you can find a way of doing that without that direct parental involvement?
I do agree that there are inequalities.
Yeah.
And when the implementation was done, the facilitation, especially on the side of the teachers, was not enough. I will not term it as a rush. It ain't a rush, but the implementation process was quite hastened. Now, the issue of ICT and the parent involvement,
yeah,
and the teacher at the center stage, you'll find that there are so many shortcomings on the side of teachers. For example, you'll find that lack of pedagogical knowledge,
yeah,
and limited access of ICT facilities by most teachers and learners is a key problem here. The other thing is about the generation that we are in, especially with the facilitators, the teachers themselves. There is that fear by the administration whereby the older generation have that fear that for someone to work on these gadgets, you must be highly skilled. And also, there is that fear that learners might be exposed to some explicit content. So with that, the teacher also fear that he might be considered redundant by the computer and such things. Now, ICT has made things much simpler. Even though the manpower might be wanting, but ICT has made things much simpler. Considering Teresia was not supposed to go all the way to the up country to look for the clay soil or whatever she wanted to use for modeling. If you go to YouTube, there are some procedures that a learner can learn how to model through YouTube. Not necessarily that the learner must access the physical clay, but through YouTube. The learner is able to learn that. Things have been made simpler by ICT, even though the roadblock stands with the facilitators. Our facilitators are quite ill-equipped. The other thing is that in our country, you'll find that internet access has not yet penetrated everywhere. For example, in those areas like the Lokichogio, Wajir, name it, find that those areas have problems with internet. So ICT implementation is a great problem in those areas. Another thing, the use of obsolete computers. It's widely seen in most of our schools.
Yeah.
Our schools, the schools that have computers are obsolete computers, computers that were used many years ago. They are not the latest computers. So it becomes a problem to integrate computer with learning.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I have to take a quick break. When you come back, Faith will explore that issue around the use of ICT a bit more. And you've had the concerns that are coming from the teachers and the parents as well. And then you'll tell us how that has been bridged. But keep your views coming at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. There's some feedback coming through. Keep them coming. I'll read some of them during this broadcast. All right? Don't go too far.